It gives me very great pleasure to introduce to you this evening Professor Phumla Gobodo-Madikizela, Professor of Psychology in the Faculty of Humanities, who will deliver her inaugural lecture entitled The Face of the Other, Human Dialogue at Solms Delta and the Meaning of Moral Imagination. Phumla grew up in Langa Township. After completing her primary schooling there, she enrolled for her secondary school education at Inanda Seminary in Durban, which at the time was the only private school for African girls in South Africa. The period she spent at Inanda was formative for her. At this time, the Black consciousness movement was at its height, and Phumla and her school friends used to skip school whenever they could to visit the medical students' residence, to listen to speeches of Mampela Rampela and Vui Mashalaba, two leading women in the Black consciousness movement. As a member of the debating society in her school, Phumla led the establishment of a junior SASO high school movement known by the acronym JASCO. Inanda Seminary had a section in the school library reserved for banned books on the Holocaust, slavery in the United States, and the anti-apartheid struggle. Phumla spent many hours in this section of the library, and her encounter with these books marked the beginning of her interest in why and how it is that human beings conceive of ideas which harm or destroy others in violent or subtle ways. Also formative in her Inanda days was the opportunity to participate in what were in the early 1970s called encounter groups between black and white high school girls. This happened long before the discourse of reconciliation was fashionable. These conversations with peers across the colour line about experiences that were common to them at the time, strict parents, boyfriends, breaking hostile rules, influenced Phumla at a critical period in the development of her political consciousness. She came to realise, perhaps for the first time, that knowing others beyond their racial identity in a divided society reduces the likelihood of prejudice that is so often activated in black-white relationships. From an early stage of her childhood and into her adult life, Phumla has taken a stand for what she believes is right and is not shy to speak out on issues of principle. As a result of strike action by students at the Inanda Seminary, Phumla was expelled and was subsequently sent by her parents to a small school in the Eastern Cape to start her matric year all over again. Because she was strong in science and mathematics, Phumla's parents were very keen for her to become a medical doctor. So in her first year at Fort Hare, she registered for what was called pre-med. Unfortunately, these dreams were shattered after an incident in the zoology lab when, upon dissecting a frog, she promptly threw up and decided instead to register for a BA degree in social work. She then went on to complete an honours degree in psychology at Fort Hare, a master's in clinical psychology at Rhodes, and a PhD in psychology at UCT. She began academic life as a lecturer at the University of the Transkei in 1986 and was appointed as an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at UCT in 2003. Phumla is perhaps best known for her award-winning book, A Human Being Died That Night, a South African story of forgiveness. She has produced, in addition to this, a number of edited collections, a further monograph, and a substantial number of book chapters and peer-reviewed journal articles. She has won numerous prizes and awards, including the Eleanor Roosevelt Medal in 2007, serves on a number of prestigious international committees, and has been invited to give a number of keynote addresses at international conferences, including that of the American Psychological Association and the International Psychoanalytic Association, at which point she addressed the United Nations Assembly. She is widely consulted by parliamentarians, judges, church organizations, and so on, and has established a range of international research collaborations and is frequently asked to teach courses at universities abroad. I always like to include in my introduction comments that have been made by international reviewers as part of the ad hominem promotion process. I'm obliged to keep the names confidential, but the comments need not be. And so I've taken a number of extracts from very highly regarded international academics about Phumla's contribution. And these are not in any particular order. The first one says, Dr. Gobodo Madikizela's work has placed her on the first row of a select few scientists who have for the past 10 to 15 years revolutionized the study of conflict by shifting the limelight of research from studying the settling or resolving of conflict to processing of reconciliation. This shift has taken place by alerting all of us to the importance of processes of healing, forgiveness, and moving beyond revenge and victimhood. In that sense, I regard Dr. Gobodo Madikizela as a true scientific leader in the area of research. The honors that have been bestowed on her during recent years is another indication of this position of scientific leadership. She is recognized worldwide by academic institutions, scholarly societies, and civic organizations. A major reason for the impact of her research is the creativity of her ideas and the lucidity with which she presents them. Her writings have been groundbreaking. A second one writes, Dr. Gobodo Madikizela is a qualitative researcher who has focused particularly on the roles of narrative apology and forgiveness in recovery from psychological trauma. Her compassionate and nuanced approach to her subject has earned her international recognition, and her work has been widely published. She is a rare academician who can also rightfully claim the title of public intellectual. A third notes that her book has been reviewed in the New York Review of Books, the New Yorker, and the London Review of Books, and goes on to say that this book really stands alone as a deep psychological and philosophical look into the life and mind of a bureaucratic mass murderer. It is a crucial book for this moment in world history, for addressing the horrific history of crimes in the last century, and for thinking about the years to come, when the mass crimes happening now are brought to justice. A fourth says, she is a highly trained, sophisticated psychologist who is also deeply humane, perceptive, eloquent, and wise. And there's no one I have learned more from over the past few years. This is a person with a first-class mind and a remarkable gift for understanding people, even people who have committed terrible crimes and people who have been victimized. She would be a credit to any institution of higher learning. She is a treasure for the field of psychology and the efforts to promote psychological healing in the most challenging circumstances. And finally, the fifth says, I am astonished by the breadth of her activities along with the depth of her thinking. Her ability to facilitate dialogues in settings as diverse as Sierra Leone, corporations in South Africa, and congressional discussion groups in the United States is unparalleled in my experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now ask Professor Gobodo Madikizela to deliver her lecture.